Hi all. I'm really happy actually someone's done this David Bronstein game, well covered in a YouTube video anyway. The story behind it is just as great as the game. When David Bronstein died at the age of 82, Yasser Sohan was recounting this story where he had been preparing that morning with Effin Geller this variation in Najdorf to show his respect for Walter Brown, and Yasser was kind of trying to warn him that Walter Brown's like a total expert in this variation of Najdorf, and he's like 80% plus tournament record of it. And still, David insisted, and in particular, he wanted to play the Najdorf as white, in particular, get a particular position with this quite very, very, very dangerous pawn sacrifice. And okay, so basically, when I'm looking at this game now, it's a very inventive, creative game. And during the game, Walter was blitzing out his moves. Apparently, he was also late for the game. That's how the story unfolds. And Dave was very, very carefully writing down his moves until he reached a critical position where like 60 minutes is spent. So let's have a look at this game. And for me, it's quite it's quite a juicy variation as white. Actually, this is a very nice aggressive variation. I think this bishop move is like a Richter Rauser move, bishop g5. So now f4, and the queen is not going to be blocking the f pawn there. It's going to go to f3, and I love this idea of g4, bishop f6, and g5, not wasting any time with the pawns. The pawns are like a kind of battering ram effect. So bishop e7, queen f3. I just think this variation also, it's got a kind of appeal to it aesthetically. So queen c7, and now white castles queenside. So white's all set for this kingside attack. Does black really want to castle on the kingside? Not particularly. He's delaying castling. So Walter plays knight bd7, and he wants to maybe try and generate a queenside initiative, with like b5, and use the c file. So he's not very keen to castle into white's kind of potential battering ram. So g4, black calmly just tries to exploit, maybe also the queen being exploited on the diagonal on f3 with b5. So now we see bishop takes f6. Now here, okay, you might think, well, maybe g takes is an option. I guess I can't see an immediate refutation of that. Actually, let's have a quick check here. I think this is just all theory anyway, but I don't think GF is meant to be that good. Okay, white just has obviously structural advantage. Maybe just a3 now, just like b4. Just checking with an engine Houdini. So here, say queen h3 or g takes. White stands better here in the double pawns. But the interest, okay, if we go back to the game. After bishop f6, so the idea is to get another tempo then, giving up the dark square bishop, get another tempo. Okay, and now here's an initial pawn sack which is highly theoretical. It's been trodden on loads of times before. In fact, it improves white's king safety a little bit as well, as kind of dents, black's pawn structure. So offering a pawn with check, which is kind of unusual in opening theory. But I really do think this is an exciting, interesting variation. Okay, so the king moves to b1, and obviously the bishop's now like a target on the g file, so it's making like castling kingside even more like unattractive. But black has got the e5 square for a knight, which he uses now, knight e5. Okay, so the queen goes to h5. There's immediate threats now. The f7 pawn's pinned, so fe, e6 is vulnerable. Okay, so queen d8. But first rook g1. There's enormous pressure here on black. I guess this is still a trodden path though. For the compensation you should be getting for the first pawn sack. So f takes, and it looks. I mean, I don't like this. This is just ultra sharp. This is a reason to play the French defence. To avoid this kind of Sicilian sharp theory where you're going to get blown off the board if you're not careful with black in a lot of variations like this. So g6, okay, evicting the queen. It's happy. The queen is happy to return back now after taking on f7 to return back to e2. Okay, with the g4 square covered, there's still some latent possibilities now. And according to actually Houdini, white actually stands quite a little bit better, 0.52 here. It's a dangerous position. I don't think this next move helps black's cause particularly, because king g7 now is putting the king on the same firing line as the rook. And this next move is really cool. So this is a really cool pawn sack now, which actually Houdini really likes as well. So great preparation in the pre-engine era for this pawn sacrifice. h4. Now, maybe theoretically best black should have played b4 actually, but Walter took the pawn, and now we see huge pressure being built up on d6 and g6 actually after this next move, knight f5 check. So immediately, you know, on d6. So it's taken here, giving up. Nope, it's not taken here. If taking here, giving up the light square bishop, that's a bit of a major concession. Pardon me. So if takes, e takes, that will still be on g6, getting the light square bishop, and play might continue something like this. And you can see the light squares are under great strain. And bishop g2, this diagonal, d5 as well. This could all be kind of very unpleasant. So knight e4, say. If d6 drops, black's position is kind of unpleasant to say the least here. So actually this after knight f5 check, the king just sidestepped to h7. Okay, but d6 is still on, and it's taken now with the rook. Rook takes d6. So queen f8, as though things are hanging. You know, is this a problem? Okay, it might be a problem, but there's a really nifty move here, which is really super cool. I wonder if you can spot it. It's to do with the magic of the queen, you know, being on the centre of the white queen. Where can it magically go? Well, usefully go now. So if I give you 10 seconds here, can you spot white's next move here? Starting from now. Okay, because you don't want to move the knight, you'll lose the rook. So this next move is really nice. Queen h2. Okay, so if it takes, you just take the knight and you're protecting the rook. So there's trouble now for black. So here, Walter did take on f5. Now queen takes e5 with a lot of threat still. Okay. So, does the bishop retreat? No. This seemingly very clever move, queen e7, is played now, using the bishop on h4 just to counterattack against the queen, which would then hit the rook. So again, you know, doesn't seem to be a dire need to move the bishop back. But David Bronstein simply takes on e7. Okay. And now, knowing the bishop has to waste time against this threat now, just plays rook c6. So with a very strong threat of rook c7. Okay. So after rook hc8, that's another clever move. Bishop protecting the rook. Now rook b6, again threatening like rook b7. And here, now this is very interesting actually. There might have been a move bishop c5 to minimise the damage. So after check, you know, again, you know, white's got something under fire. But rook h1 white still would be better. But in the game, Walter decided to sack the exchange. Well, play this move, rook takes c3. But David's not interested in taking, giving black big compensation after bishop e4. He just takes on f5. He wants to win g6. And now black is in severe trouble. To rook e3, even more pressure on that poor g6 point now. Bishop d3, but also defending, of course, the back row mate threat of rook e1. So bishop d3. Now again, you know, there's a tactical vulnerability sort of trying to be probed here with bishop c5, but this next move sorts everything out coordinates white's pieces. B takes g6, rook b takes g6. Big threat. After rook a e8. Okay, this back row really needs to be sorted out. So some errors made for the king now. A4. So still maintaining these huge threats like rook g7 and f6. Takes, and now f6. So there's a big discovered threat check now from the bishop. And now here Walter gives up the exchange with rook d3. But remember, the bishop is attacking the rook as well. So it's not really giving up the exchange, in fact. So, but there's a clever sequence now. Pardon me, a clever combination now, which I wonder if you can spot. Okay, check, and here if I give you 10 seconds, forget taking the rook. There's a much stronger move. Okay, just rook h1, threatening mate. So if the bishop tries to defend, then you can take the rook. And here, actually, Walter resigned. So say bishop e3, trying to defend against the mate of rook takes h6. Just take on d3, exchange up, crushing position. It's all over really. That's enough to win. Okay, I thought it was a beautiful game from a beautiful opening. I like the attacking nature of the opening. Let's go through that again. So Sicilian Najdorf. I think this is a Richter-Elsa relation with bishop g5. And I just like this idea. I'd like to play this as white, you know, soon in a live commentary game. This is nice against the Sicilian. That Scheveningen structure. So bishop e7, queen f3. But you know, David's also shown respect in other variations to other players, like Cares, playing the Cares attack in one tournament quite a lot with g4. Those are very, very entertaining games as well. But I love this idea of, you know, using the pawns as a battering ram on the king side. So casting queen side, and now g4. I don't know how many of you have played this variation. It just looks very, very entertaining and great fun for white already. And this is a heavily theoretically trodden path at the moment. So it was really not the first sack, which is very theoretical, of f5, which obviously it generates compensation, but this second sack coming up to play h4, so losing the h pawn, but it gives opportunities like queen h2 basically, you know, which target things like d6. So knight f5 check, rook takes, and now it looks also white's got all these hanging pieces all the time in this game. Like this knight and rook are kind of fragilely, you know, pre after queen f8. Neither can move, so white's forced to counter-attack. And after bishop f5, queen takes e5. The interesting thing here, you know, black didn't naturally move the bishop, but kept counter-attacking on white's pieces now. So queen e7. And then we see this scenario where, you know, this is potentially a really dangerous bishop c5 as well on the diagonal. So here, rook b6. Okay. So rook takes c3. Doesn't want to accept Walter's exchange sack, which will give black a great game if b takes. Bishop takes e4. In fact, let's just do a quick check on b takes. If b takes, I don't think that's any good. Maybe strongest is not bishop e4. Pardon me. That would be better for white after bishop d3 here. But actually, just bishop c5 here. Just fault the two rooks first. As if check, king g8. And then taking on e4. So say rook g3, bishop e4. Black looks to be just about okay here, or might be fine. So in the game after this, in this position, rook takes c3, e takes f5 was played anyway, and now white's getting a big advantage finally after bishop d3. takes on g6, has to sort out the back row mate threat, so a4, and now f6, and white's pieces are beautifully coordinated here, and actually there's another question to ask here about rook e1. Let's ask this question: if rook e1 here, what would have happened? She just king sidestep move, and if it takes check. Now here rook g6. Apparently this is huge advantage for white. Now you might ask why, because it's simplified. It's only rook and bishop. It's only an advanced pawn. Well, what does black play here? Dini's giving this as an example. Rook f8 check. See, you've got bishop c4 check now, winning the exchange. So where, how does black defend this position? So even in this simplified position, there's a really big attack here, because the opposite colour bishops actually doesn't favour black's king at all. So that's why it's still so strong here, this attack after rook g6. Okay, so in the game, so rook takes d3. We saw rook g7 check, and this very nifty move, rook h1. Brilliant move. Brilliant and simple. So that was it. Comments or questions on YouTube? I hope you enjoyed that game as much as me and the story around it as well. Thanks very much.